That was me. Many consider Berserk as one of, if not the best, manga ever. Some even praise it as the greatest piece of fiction created. So how could anyone read the first of these brick houses and drop it? Damn, this boy's thick. Simply, I wasn't ready. And as stupid as that sounds, it's the truth. Manga piqued my interest in the middle of 2022 thanks to podcasts and YouTube videos from Trash Taste. I binged their podcast that summer and recalled topics like Shonen, One Piece, and Berserk. I kept wondering though, what the hell is Shonen? That was until I found this on my bookshelf, which I've had since childhood. 2003, August, Shonen Jump Monthly Magazine. I was a stupid kid though. Stupid because I read it the wrong way, despite it saying, "Hey dumbass, you're reading it the wrong way." 18 years later, and I finally read this relic properly. Unsurprisingly, I had a good time and decided to get a library card and place holds on some manga. I chose 3 series: One Piece, Pokemon Adventures, and Berserk. One Piece, since I loved hearing the Trash Taste guys talk about it, and the popularity of it was contagious. Pokemon Adventures, as I grew up with the franchise and came across the manga's collector's edition in the pandemic, so it felt like a seamless transition. Then, Berserk, due to his incredible reputation. The latter by far had the longest wait time, as I wouldn't receive the first volume for months. The day eventually arrived, and what the heck is this first page? Curiosity gets the best of people, so to be sure nobody peeked inside this massive book, I stacked on top several borrowed One Piece volumes. Not suspicious. Contrast the fun adventures of One Piece and Pokemon Adventures to sex, gore, horrendous creatures, and paganism? You can make fun of me all you want, but up to that point, I hadn't experienced a lot of violent media, and to be honest, I stopped consuming much stuff outside of YouTube after 2018. Despite being thrown off by certain panels, I carried on. And yes, there will be spoilers throughout the video. What is Berserk? It's a tale of a swordsman named Guts, aka the Black Swordsman, who is in search of someone. Whatever he's after, why does he have to be such a dick? He rubbed me the wrong way, showed the cold shoulder to everyone he met, and had no signs of empathy for the brutality occurring. But he has a huge sword. The story takes place in the Middle Ages, where most things seem ordinary. Obviously that isn't the case with the first page. And soon later, an elf named Puck, who Guts seemingly helps by killing the guys who captured and tortured the little guy, which led to the swordsman's arrest. With him imprisoned, we learn a little about this world. There are those in charge, and then there are those who really are in charge. Guts couldn't care less, as he gets out of this situation and concludes the chapter by defeating the leader who definitely isn't human. Albeit, Guts doesn't seem normal himself, as the attacks he overcame would instantly destroy most humans. The journey continues, and we see further examples of this abnormal world. The brand on his neck, the creatures that appear, and what is this god hand? Except, those weren't my thoughts. I was in awe, and unsettled. I didn't enjoy the first few chapters. The main character is an asshole, and people died needlessly. Although, my dislike didn't last long, as it went from "what the heck is this?" to "what the f*** is this?" It initially seems as a monster of the week situation, with the next being the Count in chapter Guardian Angel of Desire. If I thought the previous chapters were unsettling, there was more in store. In spite of that, I'd soon realize that Berserk is actually good. Guts walks into this town led by the Count, where many are killed for alleged heresy. We learn about this man, his daughter, and how he became who he is. Well, according to this guy. Later on, Guts gets into a fight with him, which leads to a changed appearance and the emergence of the God Hand. This is where we first meet Griffith. With my first look at her and Guts' reaction, I thought, are these former lovers? The enemies to lovers trope? I'm more like a lovers to enemies type of guy. But he can't get close to her. Regardless, wherever we were was incredibly drawn. Something out of this world, which fits the introduction of these 5. We learn a little concerning the 2 ex-lovers. For one, Griffith is being called Femto, and 2, she caused this brand on Guts' neck. As Puck says, what happened between these 2? Whatever did, Femto overstrengths Guts with minimal effort. We conclude the arc with the Count's backstory. It doesn't redeem what he's done, but it gets you to learn how this human no longer is one. In order to reach an even higher power, he's forced to sacrifice something important to him. The only option? His penis. His daughter. Unwilling to do so, the Count is sent to hell, the Shadow Realm, whatever this is. Guts, Puck, and the daughter live on, yet at what cost? The daughter is understandably a mess, and wishes to get revenge on Guts after he saves her, while the swordsman is just a dick to her. However, this panel is shown after, with Guts sad. From the tough edgelord to this comes out of nowhere. At least, that's what I thought at the time. Reading back on it, there were several moments where he does show a slight hint of emotion. I didn't notice those, and that led me to close the first deluxe volume and not continue Berserk. Despite my poor media literacy, I could tell this is an insane story that has layers to it. Unfortunately, it was too intense for me. I wasn't ready, so I didn't pick up volume 2. I dropped Berserk. Despite that, I couldn't stop hearing about it. For the next year and a half, I would consume more anime and manga from several different genres. I got through some darker shows, and my appreciation for the medium increased. Then on a February afternoon, I was working on my PC where the thought of Berserk crept into my mind. Where they came from, I'm not sure, but those thoughts caused me to stop and think, you know what? Let's continue Berserk. Opening my library app, the second volume had 23 holds on 5 copies. Well, this is gonna take a while. I wouldn't get a copy for 4 months. I could wait, but that itch was there. Then I remembered the anime. So I watched the 2016 version and decided to never consume Berserk again. Okay, I already know that's a no-go.
Top picks for you, Rent a Girlfriend. What?
However, what about the adaptation from 1997? That's when I was born. I've heard good things about it, but normally people say, just read the manga, bro. Well, bro, I can't wait. And before you say sail to high seas, I just wanted to read it physically. The initial deluxe volume leaves off at the start of the Golden Age arc, which is where the anime begins. Cool, I'll just go watch it on Crunchyroll. Oh, it's that version. Okay, so I didn't know that this one was a completely different production and is actually decently rated. Oh well. JustWatch.com, tell me where I can find the show. Not available for streaming. Well, I have a lot on my watch list, so I can wait for the manga. However, curiosity got the best of me, as I found a Reddit post on where I can watch it. The high seas? I'd rather wait for the manga. Unless it had everything, except for episode 1. The other option wasn't an option until next month. That's because the Blu-ray is being re-released. I found the trailer on Twitter and later YouTube, and wow. Usually trailers for anime get me intrigued, but never have I rewatched a trailer 10, 20, 30 times. There is something with the visuals and the music that turned me into a temporary crack addict. It pumped me up so much that I had to watch it now. So I may have or may have not gone with Yotub. Episode 1 supposedly covered what I read a year and a half ago. So episode 2 is episode 1 to me. And my first reaction was, Griffith's a dude?
Do as you please.
I finished the show in less than 3 weeks, and overall, I enjoyed it. The story seemed great, characters were interesting in big and small ways, although the animation did underwhelm. Yes, it's from 1997, but so was Pokemon. Still, it didn't take away my enjoyment. I especially loved when the song from the Blu-ray trailer played, although it rarely did. The show doesn't have a large soundtrack, but the use is excellent, especially Guts' theme, which made certain scenes impactful. Several interactions between Guts and a character named Casca, Griffith's monologue about his dream, and Guts' departure. These are scenes I still remember over a year later. Those serious moments contrast with the show's opening. Tell me what you want. Contrasted once more with the series' conclusion. Possibly the most brutal and depressing end I've watched to any type of media. I knew something bad was said to happen since I've seen the present day, but in a story with few fantasy elements, the final moments turned that notch to 101. The ending theme played, and I was left there stunned, sad, with little hope. However, I gained a new appreciation for it. Those thoughts about Berserk remained in my mind 4 months later, as multiple volumes became available from my library. I had to carry like 4 of these. I felt like I was carrying the boulders of Zeus. Most recommend the manga instead of the anime, and it's obvious why when the artwork on even the smallest of things is so good. Starting off though, Guts is getting what? Did that happen in the anime? No. A lot of what I read was in the anime. 4 months is a decent amount of time. However, I still remembered a bunch. I look at a specific panel, and my brain reminds me, oh, then this will happen. The manga did present in more detail the lovers to enemies trope I initially thought Guts and Griffith had. Or maybe do have. The initial dialogue between them felt that way, which led to this from Guts. I enjoyed reading Guts joining the Band of the Hawk and the outcome from his first battle. You see some of the characters' age, the importance of Guts to Griffith, and the jealousy of Casca. Plus, the other members were able to showcase themselves. Once the Band of the Hawk joins the Midland Army though, my feelings change a bit. Midland, by the way, is a monarchical kingdom in the middle of a 100-year war. This is covered from chapter Sword Wind all the way to the first part of Morning Departure. These chapters became a bit of a slog to get through. Now that's because I watched the anime. To me, they blended similarly. There were differences, like a lot more gore and amazing art, but the main dialogue points were hit. I'd read one chapter before bed and decide to leave it for the next day, then the next, and the next. Of course, there were parts I revisited that I enjoyed again, such as Guts' interactions with Casca and Griffith. Still, the main part of the war wasn't my favorite to experience again. Then, a problem arrived. I had Deluxe Volumes 3 and 4, and got through a quarter of the former. It's Friday night, and both were due the following day. While my library doesn't have late fees, there were plenty of people waiting. I'm not in a less fortunate position where returning it would be difficult, so I'd feel like a dick if I brought them back late. That led to hours of quick reading. Once I got to the final Holy War battle, I wish I could have taken my time. We entered the climax of the Golden Age, from Griffith's poisoning to Guts' departure and the battle between the two. Parts that were in the show, but the impact felt greater. From time to time, I go back and look at this picture I took of the Morning Departure's conclusion. After Guts broke Griffith's sword, he won and left the Band of the Hawk. Griffith's devastated, and Guts continues to not look back, monologuing, "It's alright. It's like stumbling on a rock on the roadside. It's petty, a small thing. The place you want to go is more distant, farther off. So, it's alright. You'll stand up. Soon." This part is also awesome in the 1997 anime, and it's pretty good motivation when you're down in the dumps. These moments give you a little bit of hope. So, how did Griffith handle it? Not well. What follows is a drastic difference between the anime and manga. There were pages that weren't adapted that added a new gravitas to the narrative. There's character development, and then there's character regression. That was with Griffith and the King of Midland. You get a whole new viewpoint from the latter, which compared to the anime is disturbing. Griffith's depiction is similar, but how you get from this to this is longer than the anime, and a lot more hoops. There are also multiple individuals absent from the anime that play a crucial role in the manga. While I had to rush through 3/4 of the arc, it was incredible to read through it, and the final page closed in the middle of the eclipse. I finally reached where the anime would end, heightened by 58, a hopeless ending in anime to the beginning in manga. The eclipse is iconic. Brutally iconic. Part of me wishes this first deluxe volume wasn't the start of the story. I already knew Griffith was going to become a bad guy. Well, I guess I thought bad woman, but that's besides the point. I just didn't know the steps that were involved to make that happen. The reveal of Griffith becoming the villain would have been insane. Then again, that massive tonal shift would have been a bit jarring and probably would upset a lot of people. I think it's easier for an audience to go from something like the start of Berserk then down a little to, the Golden Age arc back to an extreme level of the Eclipse, rather than the Golden Age arc to the Eclipse. Regardless, knowing the information to this doesn't change how you feel when you react to the Eclipse. You know something bad is going to happen. You just don't know how. I could watch that scene 10 times and I'd still feel uncomfortable. Post-Eclipse, I knew why people rated this manga so highly. However, personally, I didn't feel it as the best like so many have said. And that'd be the case for a little longer. It's a personal feeling. However, the further I went along, the more I wondered, why does so many bad things happen to women? I barely jest, but a lot of characters we run into have had or end up having terrible moments happen to them. The child in The Lost Children wants to escape her situation, only to be told by Guts that there's no paradise for you to escape to. Then with Conviction, where it's first shown with Farnese, followed by several others in different ways. Serpico's mom in the flashback too. The top of the list is of course Casca, who can't have anything nice happen to her. At the end of the day, bad things happen to everyone in this world, and Guts is the epitome of that. With every panel, my mind was blown by the end of the Conviction arc. Afterwards, we think Guts and Casca are on the up. Spoiler, they weren't. I thought this was a good time to mention the sexual violence in Berserk. I won't lie and say it didn't throw me off. If some of the scenes I saw were in my original reading, it might have been longer before I picked the series back up. It's brutal, and while I've watched Vinland Saga that depicts it, and read books such as Beartown that has it, Berserk was incredibly tough to take in. For the most part, it didn't do it in a way without a point. The world of Berserk is cruel, unimaginably so. Despite that, Millennium Falcon came and went with a lot of character development, plus the introduction of the GOAT, Shirka. Post-Eclipse, the moments with Guts' new crew in its full are my favorite parts of the manga. Don't get me wrong, the parts with Griffith is cool and all, but you know what? I know what you did, Griffith. You see a man refuse help as he tries to move forward. He can't though, as this brand he received in the Eclipse leads him with demons chasing him at night. He has to destroy them and protect Casca, who also has the brand, but is now with the mind of a mute child. She's afraid of Guts, and he's at his limit. That leads him to open himself more to others. There's Isidro, who admires him, Firenze, who has her own struggles, and then there's Shirka, who doesn't understand him at all. Soon, the two of them become the reason they each grow. These and others grow in their own ways, thanks to one another. Well, except Puck. He's just a menace. One of my favorite parts is when Guts thinks back on his journey. He never thought he could have a group of people he could appreciate, as he had with the Band of the Hawk. However, he finally does. Simultaneously, Griffith was doing the same, but you don't get to be talked about. After the conclusion of the Millennium Falcon arc, to me, Berserk became special. Falconia begins, and over the course of the arc, there's two moments that brought my feelings similar to most. I now got it. I didn't love Berserk because of the action. While it's incredible and I appreciate the effort that it must have taken to draw all of that, I love this series for the long-term storytelling. Falconia had two moments with Rickard and Casca. I won't spoil what happened, but one of them got me popping off, and the other had me in tears. To write these character arcs that spanned hundreds of chapters that took decades to make, it was satisfying to read the conclusion of those, and made me glad I picked up Berserk. Those, along with the development of Guts and other characters, made me realize that Berserk deserves its reputation, and made me glad I picked it up. Unfortunately, a bittersweet feeling bundled up. That too soon fades away, along with a single tear like morning dew. Flip page, rest in peace, Kentaro Miura. I knew the last page was coming because of a podcast I watched. Being near the end of Miura's Berserk brought sadness in me. I've read the final couple of pages dozens of times before writing this. However, I'm glad I had these feelings, and I'm glad I experienced the story. I didn't expect it after dropping it over 2 years ago. Berserk does continue, and I'm glad the legacy of Kentaro Miura will carry on. Whether it's as good or not doesn't matter to me. I know that you can't force back what is gone. It won't be the same. That's okay, because the journey of re-experiencing Berserk was one I'll never forget. This was never meant to be an analysis of Berserk. Instead, I wanted to showcase my experience through a masterpiece that I initially couldn't get through. It's easy to go through life and not notice the little things. Days, weeks, and even years go by. Berserk shows that no matter what challenges life keeps presenting you, just look around and open your eyes. I'm not sure how that's going to help me right now.